Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this next episode in our podcast series on growing healthy communities. Today, we're going to be talking about making a business plan. My name is Nancy Welsh-Young, and I'm so happy to be back again as your host today. Let's get started. There is a connection between business and community development. Although your primary goal might be improving the community rather than making a profit, business can still be important to your work. Even nonprofit organizations need resources to sustain their work, and business operations can be a good way to acquire those necessary resources. Your business operations usually involve things you sell. Those things can be products, actual goods, or they could be services. So here's a couple of examples. Products would be things that are tangible, things you can touch, hold, and possess and take home with you at the end of the day. You pay for it and then it's yours. That would be things like books or crafts, greeting cards, t-shirts, that sort of thing. Services, on the other hand, are more intangible. You can't touch them and own them and take them home with you, but they can help improve your life in some way when they're provided to you. So that would be things like childcare, grocery deliveries, yard work, things like that. But you might be wondering, if it's ethical for us to sell products and services. And the answer is yes, if it's done honestly, openly, and fairly. What's sold should be of high quality and good value, fairly advertised and delivered as stated, of course. And selling products and services can be more than ethically permissible. It can be the ethically responsible thing to do if you're selling something, for example, that people need and that will actually help improve their life in some way. And then you might also wonder, and is it legal? Yes, in a great number of cases, it is legal. Here's a key fact. A nonprofit group can make a profit. Of course, the selling of products and services must comply with local laws and regulations. It's up to you to know what those laws and regulations are where you live. Does this mean all nonprofit groups should go into business? Well, no, not necessarily. There are other ways to pay expenses and ensure your financial sustainability. We've talked about some of these before, but it would be things like grants, fundraisers, membership dues, in-kind support donations. Business should depend on what funding you need, what you have on hand, and what funding options are available to you and what your prospects for success are in each case. So all of those things factor into your decision about going into business anyway. And then to plan for your overall financial sustainability over time requires an overall financial plan. And if business operations are part of what sustains you, then you'll also need a business plan. So that takes us to the question, what is a business plan? Well, it's a written document that describes in detail what kind of business you intend to operate, how you intend to operate it, and why you believe it will succeed. It's backed with logical, factual, and financial documentation. Why should you have a business plan? Setting your thoughts down on paper and forming a plan will clarify your own thinking. Your business plan will raise confidence in your business ventures among members of your own group and among potential outside backers. A business plan will also increase your likelihood of business success. So when should you make a business plan? Well, when you're seriously thinking about embarking on a particular business venture. When you're seriously thinking about embarking on a particular business venture. When you need clarity on the details, when you want expert feedback or advice on the specifics of your ideas, and when you need to attract outside grants, gifts, loans, supplies, other materials, or moral support. So how do you make a business plan anyway? We are going to cover three main elements. One is, what should the plan contain? Two, how should the plan be written? And three, how should the plan be packaged? What all should be in the plan? Well, successful business plans do vary in their format, but all contain some basic components. So don't hesitate to adapt them to your own situation, but try to stay fairly close to the mark. First, you're going to want a cover page. This should include a title, your organization name, and accessible contact information like your phone, fax, email. Do people still have faxes anymore? Just kidding. The title should also reflect the nature of your plan, and it should be phrased for maximum appeal to your intended audience. You want to capture audience attention and interest right from the beginning. The table of contents needs to list each section of your plan with appropriate page numbers. Tabs attached to the first page of each section. The table of contents needs to list each section of your plan with appropriate page numbers. Tabs attached to the first page of each section can make it easier for the reader to go and find a specific section when they're looking for it. This table should be a maximum of 1 page. Keep it short. The executive summary is usually the most important section of your plan. This is the meat of the plan. It should still not be more than 2 pages long, and normally should be written last. It'll be the last thing that you come up with after you put everything else together, because the summary is just a description of what all is in your plan, right? So it'll be a condensed version of the entire business plan. A reader of the executive summary should be able to understand what your business purpose is, what your plan contains, what your organization wants, and why it wants it. If your executive summary is effectively written, it will communicate your organization's vision of the future, establish your organization's credibility, describe your product or service and how it will be sold. It will explain and document the need for your product or service. It will inform the reader of key steps or plans you take. It will inform the reader of key steps you plan to take, make the reader want to read the entire plan, and if money is being asked for, it will request an appropriate amount of money and present a defensible case for such a request. You also need to include in your business plan a description of your organization, or in other words, who are you? So this should include like what your organization does, where it's located, how long it's been in operation, what its goals and objectives are, what it has accomplished, what financial support, if any, it receives at the moment, what specific background it has in selling products or services, and also what's a distinctive thing about your organization that sets it apart from everybody else. Why should somebody invest in your organization? Then your business plan also needs to include a description of your management. If you're looking for outside support, this will be a vital element of your plan because potential supporters will be investing in your organization's management and its ability to perform. Briefly describe your key officers and staff, including their qualifications relevant to this plan. If you have a board of directors, advisory board, or other professional or technical advisors, they can be listed here too. This section of your plan, together with the previous one describing your organization, is the equivalent of your organizational resume. It should convince potential supporters that the current leadership can carry out the plan. Then you want your business plan to also include a description of your product or service. Here's where you describe the product or service you want to sell. What exactly is it? What are the product specifications? Give the details, but don't overload the reader with technical jargon. Try to present some clear examples. If it's a physical product, try to include photographs, drawings, or brochures. If there are any special permits or licenses that you need or regulations you must comply with, cite these too. Point out any particular beneficial features your product might have. And if you can document previous customer support, provide endorsements or cite experts who recommend its use, those testimonials should certainly be included. Your reader will want to know what your market is, what research you have done to determine that market, and how you plan to reach that market. This will frequently be your most detailed section because it spells out precisely how you intend to carry out your business plan. So let's take the above points in order. Your market means who your customers are. How many potential customers are there? Are they likely to grow in number? If so, why? What distinguishing characteristics do they have, demographic or otherwise? Where are they located? Your plan should answer these questions concretely. What you want to show here is that there are enough customers for your product or service to justify the sales level you're projecting. Those sales levels will be detailed later. If there's a particular part of the market that you want to capture, say so. Also, your market research means documenting why you believe your potential customers will become actual buyers. Here you need evidence. For example, what do you really know about the habits of your market? Have you gathered data on sales off similar products? Have you observed consumers or done a survey or conducted interviews? And have you tested out some prototype designs and measured consumer reaction? This is the type of evidence we mean. Your market plan means how you plan to reach your intended market. How can customers find your product or service? Where will it be sold? In stores? Which ones? By advertisements? Where? When? How often? At special events? By mail? By local or toll-free phone line? Over the internet? Or through some combination of the above? Will there be discounts, contests, free samples, or tie-ins with other local happenings? Are there contingency plans in case one marketing strategy fails? And then you want information about your competition. It's rare that a totally new product or service comes onto the scene. Often your product or service has been sold before, and there may even be others nearby who are selling it right now. Your plan then needs to profile these competitors, briefly describing what they provide. And then, if you can, you should give reasons why your product or service is superior to your competition's. If you can't justifiably claim superiority, then at minimum, you should document that there's enough customer demand for a new competitor on the scene. That is you. Then you need to list the details of your operating plan. Somewhere along the line, your product will have to be manufactured or acquired. If it's a service, someone will need to provide it. Your operating plan describes just how this will be done. And an operating plan should answer the following questions. What is the production process? Who produces it and where? How many employees are needed? Is production occurring right now, or are matters simply in the research and development stage? Is production machinery involved? Is there a specific production location? How will production be scheduled? If you acquire the product from somewhere else, say coffee mugs, for example, who are your suppliers and what are the price supply arrangements? What about outside production regulations? What about labor and maintenance considerations? How will items get to the customers? What about quality control? What contingencies exist in case things go wrong? How will customer satisfaction be assessed and assured? Is there a flow chart that summarizes and diagrams your operational steps? If you can't answer all of these questions right away, it will stimulate you to think about the questions and come up with your best responses. You also need to include financial information in your business plan. This is where you present the actual financial information to show how you'll make a profit selling your product or service. The specifics here include historical data from selling the product or service, if such data exists, projections of how much income you will take in from selling your product or service. This is done for several different points of time in the future. And then you need a projected sales costs broken down by category and covering the same multiple points in time as your income projections did. Your total projected income minus the total projected costs will yield your projected profits for each time point. Financial assumptions which underlie and justify your projections also need to be included. And then cash on hand and other assets that are available need to be listed. And additional cash needed, if any, to put the business into operation at your desired level. If you're seeking a loan, this last item, of course, requires special attention. You need to demonstrate precisely what the loaned funds will be used for, justify your ability to repay them, and suggest how and when they will be repaid. There are two common forms used in presenting financial information, which respond to the points above. These are a balance sheet and an income forecast. And blank samples of each are provided under tools, and I'll show you those on the screen in just a moment. As far as timelines go, you're going to need a timeline or a chart that specifies each action step in your plan when it will be created. Creating a timeline is an excellent planning discipline and can be persuasive to potential supporters. And appendices. Lastly, you may have other supporting information to present which strengthens your business plan, but which does not easily fit into the main text. Such information can be placed in an appendix to your plan. Examples here could include more specifics of management qualifications, letters of endorsement, or details of your market's research. What other information might apply to your own situation? These are your basic business plan ingredients. Now let's move on to how the plan should be written and then presented. Your plan should be written simply, clearly, persuasively, honestly, and to the point. So here's some tips adapted from Guide to Writing a Business Plan. These are some of the most common writing mistakes. The first one is that the writing is unclear. If it's difficult to understand, then it's not a well-written business plan. Or if the plan is too long, the writer does not get to the point, support it with facts, and then move on. If the layout's poor or illogical, illustrations, product descriptions, and graphs are missing. Also, if an executive summary is omitted, that's a big mistake. Or if there's too much technical jargon, the writer may not clearly demonstrate what the benefits are and why someone would want to use the product or service. Another big common writing mistake is that there might be insufficient detail on the qualifications of the proposers to implement the plan. So that prevents people from being able to trust in what you're doing if they can't see the qualifications of the people who are putting this plan in place. Also, if the market's not well defined or the market research is not even cited or marketing plan is missing, how are you going to get your information out to the public? That is a definitely big common mistake. Don't do that. Also, don't fail to mention or just give sketchy mention of the market competition. I know you tend to want to shy away from that because they're the competition. You don't want to bring them up, but you need to make sure that your audience knows that you have addressed this problem and that there's a need for you on the marketplace. Then another mistake would be that the financial information that is given might not be straightforward. You don't want to come across as being shady. And also, another mistake would be if the reader is given no compelling reason to invest in the plan or to otherwise support it. So just remember all of these pitfalls before putting your plan onto paper. And now let's look at how the plan is packaged. Your reader will see your plan before reading it and will form an impression without having scanned a single page. So make sure your plan looks professional. To be specific, it should be printed on high quality paper by a high quality printer. As a guideline, its overall length should be about 20 pages, plus or minus 10. Sometimes a shortened version of the plan can be created for other promotional purposes. Use color printing, but make sure it's employed thoughtfully. It could give you an edge if it's done tastefully, such as with your graphics to really make them pop. The completed plan should also be bound according to the standards of your readers. So seek out the advice of your local print shop or get hold of some comparable finished plans that you could take a look at and see how they were put together and what kind of binding was used around the edges. And then have several people read over the plan before it's printed to make sure it's totally error-free. To enhance your persuasive content and your clear writing, your plan should have an attractive and professional appearance without being unnecessarily flashy. So now let's take a look at some examples. So here we have an example of a sample balance sheet. Here we have an example of a sample balance sheet. If you have a real business idea in mind, you could just fill out this form, maybe make some small adaptations for your proposed product or services. But just make sure that it includes, at a minimum, the year's current financial results and a forecasted financial statement, which includes significant forecast assumptions. The forecasted financial statement should be presented for a minimum of 3 years, with 5 years preferred. The forecast should be presented monthly for year 1. quarterly or monthly for year 2, and then annually for all subsequent forecasted periods. And as a practical note, total liabilities and stockholders' equity should equal total assets. And then here we have a sample forecasted statement of income and retained earnings. And you can glance over this and see a practical note to this would be ending retained earnings should agree with the ending retained earnings number on the balance sheet. I am so glad you guys were here for this today. I hope you got a lot out of this and learned a little bit about how to create your business plan. Good luck with all of your business ventures, and follow us on Facebook. Go to our website, or you can reach out to myself or Ashley Story, the Health Education Coordinator for Arkansas Obesity. So please let me know how we can help and follow along for our next podcast episode. Take care.